so it's time to add some color to your 1-point perspective cityscapes. So this one here, I have added color to already. And if you follow around the circle, it follows the Roy G. Biv pattern. So just a couple things that you should know. So one is that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 houses on most of your designs. So some of you may have split some of the pie shapes. So you have to kind of take that into consideration. And if you think of the colors, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So you're going to have to throw in a couple other colors or maybe do like a darker version, a lighter version of some of the colors, just to make it work. So what you're going to do is you're going to grab some Crayola water-based markers. And I just kind of grabbed an assortment. So red, orange, yellow, green, blue. And then what I did actually was in between the green and blue is I threw some kind of like teal colors in there. I thought this teal would make sense because it's a cross between green and blue. And then purple. And then I actually threw in kind of a purpley pink. Because remember, it's a circle, right? So then this one will join around to this one. Okay. So I have more than 8 colors here, but I want enough to kind of experiment a little bit. All right. So I'm going to start with the red and just pick whichever house you want to have red. It doesn't really matter. So I'm going to say this one. And I'm just going to go on the outside. So remember, we're going to cut this out. So the outside edge here is a good place to kind of test your colors out. So red, orange, and now I have kind of like a darker yellowish orange color. And then I have a yellow, keeping in mind that yellow is a pretty, like it's kind of a really light color. So you might not want a giant house made out of that, but it's up to you. And then green. And then I'm going to go to my kind of lighter teal. And then my darker teal. Now I'm starting to look ahead and see that I have a blue left and a purple left. So I won't have room for my purpley pink, but that's okay. So then I'll go this dark blue and then maybe purple. Okay. And then take a look at it and decide if that's how you want it to go. Okay. I'm not a big fan of this purple and this red being right beside each other. So I think what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to move this purple back to here. So I'm going to say, no, I don't want that color. I'm going to X that one out. And I really want to use this purpley red color. So I'm going to say no to this color. I'm going to say this color instead. So remember, this is just kind of your planning, right? Just to see if you can figure out the design that you want, okay? And then when I look at it, I'm not a big fan of this color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that color out. I'm going to put a blue in there instead. And then I'm going to get rid of that color and do this nice dark teal there instead. So forget that. Okay. So now I think I have a plan that I like. And now I'm going to start coloring. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're only going to outline because we're going to use this marker as our paint. Okay. So I'm just going to outline around the outside edges of my house. Okay. Doesn't have to be super neat. And then I'm going to do the greenhouse. Okay. You also might want to consider leaving some parts white. Okay. So for example, this door, I might leave white because I think that might look kind of cool. Or maybe I'll leave the zigzag in between here white. So I'm not going to paint there. So I'm just doing an outline. Okay. And then I got my yellow. All right, so I've got my all of my buildings painted or markered just on the outside edge. Okay, now I'm going to grab a watercolor brush. Okay, remember that a watercolor brush has a tip on the point of it, and the job of a watercolor brush is to collect water. Okay, so you're just going to dip it in water, maybe tap it off a little bit because you don't want a massive amount of water. Okay, and then what you're going to do is just with the very tip of your brush is you're going to kind of blur the paint just with the tip of your brush. I'm intentionally leaving this circle white. It's kind of like a clock tower. And you see how that kind of moves the paint around and fills the color. Okay. So then I'm going to move on to the next one. It's a pretty quick process. You just kind of grab the paint and you have to be a little bit patient because you want the colors to just blur together. Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to paint over that doorway. I don't think I'm going to leave it. Okay. And then you just move around your building, just using the very tip of my brush. Okay. So I'm not using the flat of my brush, just using the tip. The job of this brush is just to move the water around. Okay. Just using the very, very tip. Okay. And I think if you notice what I just did there is I didn't even grab more water. I kept using the same brush that I used for the purple or for this purpley pink, and it kind of pulled that purple pink into this building, which kind of looks cool. So I'm doing super lightly just with the very tip of my brush because I don't want to color in that white there. I want to leave it white. I was like just kind of a contrast. Okay, I'm going to go over to my blue. I think I need more water now. So I'm just kind of moving the paint around with the tip of my brush. So you have to think of it a lot differently than you would normal painting because you're kind of painting with water, and the job of your brush is just to move the water around your design. Okay, so I'm going to use that same brush. I'm not even going to re-wet it because then it'll kind of blend the blue color into this teal color and then into this lime green color. Again, just using the very tip of my brush, super light. Okay, I'm even moving the green into this yellow. So the colors kind of blend together because you want it to look like a color wheel in the end, right? Okay, so there you go. So then we're going to let it dry, and then we're going to start day 2, which is the dark sky in the center. So here is day 2. Oh, to wash your brush, by the way, just give it a rinse back in the water, and then just get some paper towel and do the squeeze, right? So squeeze only, do not pull, only squeeze. Just give it a squeeze and it's clean. Okay. So next is the night sky. So for the night sky, you're going to need a black pencil crayon and you're going to need some white correction fluid. Okay, the liquid correction fluid. So step 1 is color your sky dark black with a black pencil crayon. Okay, I am coloring, if you notice, in the direction of the houses, continuing to color to the vanishing point. Okay, so everything we do in this design, we want it to point towards the center because the center is where you want the eye to work towards because that's your vanishing point. So I'm just rotating it, coloring to the center. Okay. Now, if you want, sometimes when you look in the night sky, you might see kind of a bluish tinge. So if you want to get a really dark blue pencil crayon out, you could also go over the center part and fade it out with a dark blue. I don't have a dark blue here, but that's something else you could do. Okay, now some of you might have sky in between your buildings. So keep that in mind. So some of you might have to color in between your buildings here. Pay attention to that. Some of you have a lot of sky and some of you have a small amount of sky, but you figure that out, okay? And then what you're going to do is you're just going to take the correction fluid, and this is how you're going to add your stars, okay? Don't go crazy with the stars, but you just kind of dab it until the fluid gets going and just make a little dot. That's it. Okay. So I can't say how many stars you guys should have because it really depends on how much sky. Some people have a lot of sky, some people have a small amount of sky, but don't crowd it. So that's probably about right for stars. Okay. And then once it's totally dry, so our next day, we will cut it out and then we'll glue it onto some black paper. I can't wait to see the final results.